Hi students, welcome to lesson 20, Urbanism as a Way of Life. The concept of urbanism represents a way of life. The term generally denotes the diffusion of urban culture and the evolution of urban society. C.B. Memoria opines that urbanism is a socio-economic and cultural phenomenon which traces interaction between the social and technological processes. According to Encyclopedia Britannica, urbanism cannot be understood simply by statistics of urban growth. It is a matter of a distinctive culture and consciousness. Urbanism is a way of life as considered by the German sociologist 𝗧𝗦𝗔𝗧 and the American sociologist 𝗬𝗎𝑐𝗺. Urbanism as way of life reflects tendency to nervous overstimulation and may lead to bored and blase attitude to life. Let us now discuss the objectives of this lesson. After completion of this lesson, you will be able to understand the concept of urbanism as way of life. We will also be able to understand the viewpoints of various thinkers about urbanism as way of life. Let us now discuss in detail about what is urbanism as a way of life. Urbanism is generally defined as the study of ethos of cities, but different fields focus on different aspects. In urban planning and architecture, urban form and structure is the focus. In sociology, urbanism may be more about social interaction and community within the context of cities. Historians may be particularly interested in historical patterns of urban growth and change. What all fields have in common is a concern for the created human habitat, socio-cultural environs and the problems and potential solutions that habitat inspires. Urbanism is the study of how population of urban areas such as towns and cities interact with the built environment. After Industrial Revolution, the city became both the symbol and the reality of industrial society as a whole. Industrialism created a centralized web of social relationships with city as the node. It strongly influenced the style and set the standard for the whole society, imposing on its own entire economic, political and cultural framework. Urbanism as a characteristic mode of life may be approached empirically from three interrelated perspectives. Firstly, as a physical structure comprising a population base, a technology and an ecological order. Secondly, as a system of social organization involving a characteristic social structure, a series of social institutions and a typical pattern of social relationships. And thirdly, as a set of attitudes and ideas and a constellation of personalities engaging in typical forms of collective behavior and subject to characteristic mechanisms of social control. According to Ram Ahuja, urbanism is a way of life which is characterized by components like transiency, that is short-term relations, superficiality, that is impersonal and formal relations with limited number of people, anonymity, that means not knowing names and lacking intimacy, and individualism, which means people giving more importance to one's vested interests. Urbanism has several elements. Let us discuss some of them. The diversity of social life, that is normal and social role conflict. Secondly, rapid social and cultural change. Thirdly, impersonal and lack of intimate communication. Fourthly, materialism and individualism. This is followed by social mobility. There is also increase in formal social control. After the Industrial Revolution, sociologists such as Max Weber and 𝗳𝗏 𝗪𝗏 began to focus on the accelerating process of urbanization and the effects it had on the feelings of social alienation and anonymity. Notably, 𝗳𝗏 𝗪𝗏 is widely considered to be the father of urban sociology for his contributions to the field in works such as The Metropolis and Mental Life, published in 1903. The famous sociologist 𝗬𝗎𝗓, in his landmark paper entitled Urbanism as a Way of Life, published in the American Journal of Sociology in 1938, as major social transformations were occurring. More and more people were moving into cities and the world was rapidly urbanizing. The contribution of founding fathers of sociology like Emil Durkheim, Karl Marx and Max Weber is significant in the study of changes in the society that took place after the Industrial Revolution. Even though none of these three had studied city as the separate entity in their analysis, they simply focused on the growth of urban institution and way of life as an expression. Other earlier sociologists like Ferdinand Tönnies and 𝗳𝗏 𝗪𝗏 closely focused on sociology of city and tended to concentrate on the important features of urban change. Let us now discuss about the contributions of Ferdinand Tönnies. Tönnies defined and described two basic organizing principles of human association, or two contrasting types of human social life. They are 𝗳𝗏𝗪𝗏 and 𝗧𝗏. Let us now discuss about 𝗳𝗏𝗪𝗏, that is community. It is characterized by country, village and essential unity of purpose, work together for the common good, united by ties of family, kinship and neighborhood, land worked communally by inhabitants, social life characterized by intimate, private and exclusive living together, members bound by common language and traditions, recognized common goods and evils, common friends and enemies, sense of we-ness or ourness. Let us now discuss about 𝗧𝗏, that is association. It is characterized by large city. City life is a mechanical aggregate characterized by disunity, rampant individualism and selfishness. Meaning of existence shifts from group to individual, rational, calculating, each person understood in terms of a particular role and service provided, and it also deals with artificial construction of an aggregate of human beings which superficially resembles the 𝗳𝗏𝗪𝗏. There are three types of 𝗳𝗏𝗪𝗏 relationships: kinship, friendship and neighborhood or locality. Kinship 𝗳𝗏𝗪𝗏 is based on family, the strongest relationship being between mother and child, then husband and wife, and then siblings. 𝗳𝗏𝗪𝗏 also exists between father and child, but this relationship is less instinctual than that of mother and child. However, the father-child relationship is the original manifestation of authority within 𝗳𝗏𝗪𝗏. Kinship develops and differentiates into Gemeinschaft of locality, which is based on a common habitat. There is also friendship or Gemeinschaft of mind, which requires a common mental community. Let us now discuss about the contributions of George Simmel. According to Simmel, urbanism encourages momentary cults and fashions. It disconnects urbanites from their traditional collective interactions, leaving them with feeling of being deserted. The unreal expectations, individualism leads to an attitude of reserve and isolation. Hence, as Simmel noted, the superficial paradox that one nowhere feels as lonely and lost as in the metropolitan crowd. At the same time, cities promote diversity and creativity. They attract the best and the brightest. If anything is to be accomplished in modern society, it almost certainly will be in the city. Karl Marx spoke of the idiocy of rural life. Only in cities, many sociologists have felt, are human beings able to realize to the full all their potentialities. Cities are the forcing house of change and growth. At the beginning of the 20th century, George Simmel published one of his most important and well-known texts, The Metropolis and Mental Life. He focused on the changes he observed in the relationship between spatial configuration and society and other forms of sociability within the urban landscape of the emerging big cities or metropolises, namely Berlin, at the turn of the 19th century. When he published his essay in 1903, the metropolis was a recent occurrence signaling the beginning of a new urban phenomenon. It was brought about by the advances of industrialization and capitalism, which subsequently would permanently change the physical configuration of cities and alter their economic, social and cultural significance. Simmel lived through Berlin's great transformations from the second half of the 19th century onward, and he described the birth of the modern city with singular clarity, seeking to demonstrate how the makeup of big city would radically transform the relationship between individuals and society. In the modern metropolis, the accelerated flow of information and activities synchronizes with the mechanic speed of the industrial revolution, resulting in increase in pace of individuals. The result was the development of social relations which were less reliant on traditional historical or cultural codes of behavior. Simmel called this behavior blaze. It distanced citizens from the associations and obligations which are characteristic of social relationships in small towns. In modern capitalism, this type of behavior increased human productive efficiency in the urban environment. The rules for controlling citizens were diluted in heterogeneous cities, resulting in greater individual freedom and conducts which diverge from conventional behavior. Simmel, while elaborating on metropolis, which symbolizes urbanism, says that they are characterized by these factors. Firstly, reinforced by the money economy, which is a common denominator of all values regardless of their individuality. Secondly, reserve, indifference, apathy, which are forms of psychological protection, become parts of the metropolitan lifestyle. Thirdly, positive aspect of metropolitan life is reserve and detachment, which produce individual freedom. Next point is paradox of city life is objectivization, which leads to greater individualism and subjectivism. Simmel also says the most significant characteristic of metropolis is functional extension beyond its physical boundaries. A person's life does not end with the limits of his or her body and the area of his or her immediate activity. When Simmel identified a society in transformation and a new urban behavior in Berlin at the start of the 20th century, his model city had just over 1 million inhabitants. Many terms and a considerable number of different analyses have been developed since that first moment. The contemporary metropolis has a different size and format, different economic and productive systems, other priorities and new social and environmental commitments which are interconnected and located between the real and unreal. However, these new elements seem to survive alongside older human aspirations influenced by history, culture and the understanding of their relations with space. Let us now discuss about the Chicago School and city life. The contribution of Chicago School thinkers in the field of urban sociology is very significant. Robert E. Park and Ernest Burgess along with Lewis Wirth are the most famous scholars who explained about the city life by using ecological models. The Chicago School thinkers argued that spread of urban settlement should be understood in their own context. The ideas that were developed by these three thinkers serve as the basis of studying and making new researches in the field of urban sociology for many years. Let us now discuss about Robert E. Park's contribution. Robert Park suggested human ecological perspective that focused on the study of the relationship between people and their environment. Park emphasized that economic competition creates certain regularities in land use pattern and distribution of population. He talked about the process of competition, invasion and succession in accumulating the different segment of zones in the city area. City has become into different zones or area where people struggle to get their places in each zones. Park also argued that cities change through a complex interaction of physical and moral forces. Struggle for existence was a key feature of urban settlements, which the strongest individuals and rich people accumulate the most favorable locations and other poor adjust to live in an unsuitable place. Also, Park concluded that along with the changes in time, people developed their own way of life in their respective places. If changes occur, the group of people could push out the existing inhabitants and invade others' territory too. Let us now discuss about the contributions of Ernest Burgess. Burgess presented his famous theory of concentric urban zones in 1925. He described that most of the cities spread outwards like ripples in a pond. Each zone is occupied by a particular class of people. In this model, Central Business District, that is CBD, is surrounded by a transition zone, then a belt of working class people's residence, then a residential area of high class people's apartments, and finally a commuter zone of suburban areas. Burgess elaborated that rich people had the power of choosing their residential area, which was far away from the industries, and poor and minority ethnic groups had no choice in it and live in the inner city. If the population grows, factories expand, and then it again creates an invasion and succession process where new segregation occurs in the city boundaries. Transition zone viewed in negative perspective due to the disorganization which exists here. Lack of social and moral order in this zone creates demoralization where crime and deviant behavior spread. Even though other scholars criticize the model brought by Burgess, since many cities did not display the same model of concentric model, and the rich do not always move out to the suburbs. Let us now discuss about the contributions of 𝗧𝗦𝗔𝗧, who has given the concept of urbanism as way of life. The various theories of urban sociology or cities prior to 𝗧𝗦𝗔𝗧's theory were essentially descriptive studies. 𝗧's theory focus is more on urbanism, that is urban lifestyle, more than on structure. City is large, dense with permanent settlement and socially and culturally heterogeneous people. 𝗧 argued that urbanism, or the condition of living in a city, became the way of modern life. The most common way to define a city was by the population size or total number of people, but 𝗧 was not satisfied with this definition, and he strongly felt that there are other parameters of urbanism which must be considered. In addition to size, 𝗧 presented another defining feature of the city, that is density. Density refers to the number of people settled in a particular area. This is important because a large cluster of people impact how individuals interact with one another and with the city itself. Finally, 𝗧 believed that social heterogeneity was the third defining quality of a city. Heterogeneity in this context refers to the different racial and ethnic groups that make up a place. Cities have always been melting pots and destinations for immigrants. Urbanism is a special concept which inherits within itself all the characters connected with urbanization and urban way of life. Urbanism is a way of life which is also characterized by extensive conflicts of norms and values, by rapid social change, by increased social differentiation, greater social mobility, by higher levels of education and income, and by emphasis on material possessions and individualism, by impersonality of relationships and decline in intimate communication, and by increase in formal social controls. Urbanism, therefore, as a way of life incorporates three significant elements: size, density and heterogeneity. Population size. The size and population creates great diversity because large number of people come together and increase potential differentiation among population. The migration of diverse groups to city enhances the heterogeneity. This creates the necessity for formal control structures, that is legal systems, complex division of labor leading to specialization, organizes human relationships on interest specific basis, that is social segmentalization. where secondary relationships are primary. In essence, urban ties are relationships of utility, creates possibility of disorganization and disintegration. Population density. 𝗧𝗧𝗧 states that population density intensifies the effects of large population size on social life. He demonstrates the quality of discreteness, that is, economic forces and social processes produce distinct neighborhood, which he calls ecological specialization. The population density fosters a loss of sensitivity to more personal aspects of others. Instead, there develops inclination to stereotype and categorize, which interestingly results in greater tolerance of difference. However, such tendency simultaneously increases physical closeness, social distance, which may increase antisocial behavior. Population heterogeneity. Heterogeneity enhances social interaction among several personality types, resulting in breakdown of rigidity of caste lines and complication of class structure. This also leads to increased social mobility, which in turn tends to have physical mobility. This leads to further depersonalization with concentration of diverse people. Let us now discuss about the contributions of Emile Durkheim. Great cities, declared the French sociologist Emile Durkheim, are the uncontested homes of progress. It is in them that idea, fashion, customs, new needs are elaborated and then spread over the rest of the country. Minds naturally are there oriented to the future. He considered the social structure of city. Emile Durkheim viewed society as a collection whole where people interact among all members of the society. Emile Durkheim wrote about the changes brought by the industrialization in his famous book The Division of Labor in 1883. He discussed about social solidarity among the people under the types of mechanical solidarity and organic solidarity. He elaborated on social solidarity, the bond between all individuals within a society. Durkheim distinguished between mechanical solidarity of small pre-industrial societies and the organic solidarity of modern industrial societies. Mechanical solidarity refers to social bonds constructed on likeness and largely dependent upon common belief, customs, ritual, routines and symbol. People are identical in major ways and thus united, almost automatically self-sufficient. Social cohesion is based upon the likeness and similarities among individuals in a society. It is common among prehistoric and pre-agricultural societies. Mechanical solidarity reduces in predominance as modernity increases. Organic solidarity. The social order is based on social differences, complex division of labor, where many different people specialize in many different occupations. There is a greater freedom and choice for city inhabitants despite acknowledged impersonality, alienation, disagreement and conflict. The undermined traditional social integration creates a new form of social cohesion based on mutual interdependence. The social cohesion is based upon the dependence which individuals in advanced society have on each other. It is common among industrial societies as the division of labor increases. Though individuals perform different tasks and often have different values and interests, the order and very survival of society depends on their reliance on each other to perform their specific task. Let us now discuss about Max Weber's contribution. Max Weber's The City, published in 1921, is a classic example of the study of medieval Western city. Compared to Durkheim and Marx, Max Weber was the only sociologist among the three who specifically wrote about the city. Though he did not write about the modern industrial city and he focused only about medieval city, where he found the features of modern city. The rise of bureaucracy, democracy and the modern government, new merchant class and capitalist enterprises are the key features of the city in the medieval era. He pointed out that cities played a key role in transition of society from feudalism to capitalism. The city also changed the tradition and brought rationality and efficiency. The cities attracted new social order and administrative structures. Civilization also occurred due to the individual enterprises. Weber says that new order of development in the medieval cities brought great changes in the ancient society, where new Western capitalism developed to control all aspects of life. He criticized the new industrial cities, where the rise of monarchs and nation state and capitalism started to rule the cities. Urbanism and created environment. Harvey and Cassell's contributions in this regard play a very important role. More recent theorists such as David Harvey and Manuel Castells have stressed that urbanism is part of larger political and economic processes and changes. Urbanism is not an autonomous process. In modern urbanism, Harvey points out, space is constantly restructured. The process of urbanism is determined by two major factors. Firstly, the large firms and corporations decide where they should open their businesses, factories, etc. Secondly, the policies, controls and initiatives asserted by governments which can change the landscape of a city. Like Harvey, Cassell stresses that spatial form of a city is very much related to the larger process of the society. Cassell further adds the dimension of struggles and conflicts of various groups who make up the cities. He gives the example of gay community who has reorganized the structure of San Francisco city. He believes that it is not only big corporations, businesses and government which influence the shape of city, but also the communities and the groups who live in cities. Harvey and Cassell's analysis of urbanization and urban situation adds an important dimension, that is the political economy of a system. Manuel Castells was considered as one of the leading figures in new urban Marxism. In his writing Urban Question in 1977, Cassell's tried to form a foundation to a new scientific urban sociology. Cassell's focused on the traditional Marxist concept of class struggle in new basis. He argued that new forms of urban conflict is not based on the problems between the laborer and the capitalist in city. It is a conflict in the international level where modern capitalism controlled the local and international economy through the world system. Multinational corporation plays a key role in the modern capitalism which is located in the world cities. Today, urban conflict is shaped by collective consumption and urban planning. 𝗂𝗃 explained that welfare state provides housing, health, education and transportation to the labor class people instead of modern capitalism. Welfare state arose to control the class struggle where goods are distributed by the government to the people in cities. 𝗂𝗃 also criticized that local government uses urban planning to make urban environment conducive for only profit making rather than considering the benefits of people. Infrastructures are basically built up for earning money and run the private enterprise, which is a form of controlling the class struggle. Also, 𝗂𝗃 pointed out that modern state also has independence or relative autonomy which allows it to protect the long-term interest of capitalist exploitation. Globalization has brought more opportunities for urban areas in developing countries. Third world cities able to enter the international markets through economic integration. They can also do investment and development of their nation due to its benefits of relationship. Third world countries can create economic links across their territories. Indeed, many cities in third world are already joining with global cities. Ferdinand Tönnies defined and described two basic organizing principles of human association or two contrasting types of human social life, Gemeinschaft and Gesellschaft. According to George Simmel, urbanism disconnects urbanites from their traditional collective interactions, leaving them with feeling of being deserted. Robert E. Park, Ernest Burgess and Lewis Worth from Chicago School of Thought are the most famous scholars who explained about the city life by using ecological models. Max Weber pointed out that cities played a key role in transition of society from feudalism to capitalism. Emile Durkheim wrote about the changes brought by the industrialization in his famous book The Division of Labor in 1883. More recent theorists such as David Harvey and Manuel Castells have stressed that urbanism is part of larger political and economic processes and changes. Urbanism, however, is not an autonomous process.